We're going to start with Grant Bosse. Grant, 3 minutes, go.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening. Thanks, everybody, for being here for the first of what I hope is many, many debates in this race, because we've got a lot to cover. Ronald Reagan used to say that if he could agree with you 80% of the time, you're a good Republican. And I agree. And while I might disagree with Bob on health care or Jennifer on gun control, we're going to agree on 80% of the issues 80% of the time. But that other 20%, is so important. That 20% is the difference between victory and defeat, between creating, recreating, rebuilding a conservative Republican majority in this state and in this country, and between another Democratic tsunami like 2006. We have to win back the credibility of this nation's voters to make the Republican Party the party of fiscal discipline and restrained spending. That's why we can't just reform a corrupt earmark system in Washington. We have to abolish it. We're going to choose the message of the Republican Party. When we choose the messengers of the Republican Party, we're going to do that on Tuesday, September 9th, in the Republican primary. My message since I started this campaign has been very simple, very direct, and unwavering. Win the war, secure the borders, and free the economy. An economy on the brink of recession because of taxes, mandates, and overregulation. That's why I've proposed a comprehensive energy plan that would get Congress out of the way, bring oil from our domestic reserves, build more refineries, and bring alternative fuels to market, not through government intervention. That's why I've proposed a comprehensive health care plan to get Congress out of the way, lower the cost of insurance premiums, and give our veterans access to the first-class health care system that the rest of us enjoy. That's why I've proposed a plan to get Congress out of the way and oppose the mortgage bailout working its way through Congress. I've opposed a bloated $300 billion farm bill that's driving up food prices and fuel prices. And I've called for an economic recovery plan that says if Congress wants to fix the economy, they have to stop trying to help. I've offered more details on more issues throughout this campaign because I think that's how we need to win. John Lynch and Jeanne Shaheen have proven that you can win as a Democrat in this state as an empty suit. But as Republicans, I don't think we can afford to do that. Paul Hodes, no matter what you think of him, certainly stands for something. I think he's wrong, but you can't beat something with nothing. I believe in free speech, free markets, and free people. I'm the only candidate pushing an aggressive, positive, conservative agenda to win back Congress. And first, we have to win back the Republican Party. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
All right. Thank you, Grant. Next up.
Thank you. The most important question seems to be on everyone's mind today is, what is your energy plan?
Grant.
I've released a comprehensive 10-point energy plan that would remove subsidies to existing industry, put domestic energy back on the market, whether it's from Alaska, off our coast, in the outer continental shelf, or buried in the sands of Utah. It would encourage new refineries by streamlining regulations, and we know that refineries are the choke point in our gas supply. That's why gas prices are so volatile. A small change in supply can have a huge effect on price because of that choke point at the refineries. We have regulations that prevent us from using heavy crude instead of light crude. Again, it's Congress getting in the way, picking winners and losers that are driving up energy prices. I bring nuclear power plants online. I'm pleased to see John McCain came out with his energy plan. I disagree with some of it. I agree with a lot of it. And he would try to bring 45 new nuclear power plants online in his first term, on the way to putting 100 online across this nation. It's a mature, clean, and safe technology, and we should have more nuclear in this country. My plan would also level the tax code for alternative energy, so instead of picking winners like ethanol, which has been a disaster for this country, driving up food prices, driving up fuel prices, and hurting the environment, we'll let solar, wind, and New Hampshire's renewable resource, biomass, compete on the open market. Each and every one of us. That's my energy plan. Get Congress out of the way.
All right, Grant, thank you. Bob.
I agree with everything Grant just said. And
being a 30-year veteran, I have a very big interest in the long war, so I'll keep this question rather short. Congressman Hodes has been a leader in calling for a timetable for withdrawal from Iraq. I want to know what your position is regarding such a timetable, and what your position is regarding the prosecution of this war.
Yes, my timetable, we leave when we win. And we win when Iraq can stand up and defend itself, defend its own borders from the guns and the fighters and the money that's coming in from Iran, defend its own cities and its own neighborhoods. And we're getting there. We're getting ever closer. I just finished a book by Michael Yon, a former Special Forces soldier, called Moment of Truth in Iraq. I cannot recommend it more highly to everybody. He was over there embedded with units. In fact, he was with General Petraeus before he was General Petraeus, leading counterinsurgency in Iraq. And he is highly critical of the mistakes we made in 2004 and 2005. We can't ignore those mistakes. We have to learn from them. The surge learned from those mistakes. And it was much more than just an increase in troop levels. It was a change in tactics to give Iraqis back control of their civil institutions in their neighborhoods. And they're winning. They've taken back Sadr City. They've taken back Anbar Province. They've taken back Fallujah. The trouble spots that the New York Times said were lost forever are back now. Paul Hodes has been wrong on the surge. The one test he's ever had on foreign policy, the one test he's ever had, and he failed miserably. He voted against funding our troops unless there was pork barrel projects attached. Then he voted for it. He said the surge was too little too late. He was wrong. And now he's trying to silence the Department of Defense and keep them from communicating the success we've had overseas. Iraq is a crucial battle in a broader war against an evil ideology that wants to bring a dark age upon the world. We leave when we win.
Thanks, Grant. All right, we're going to now move ahead with a question from...
What should our government do to help with the subprime loans that are going to foreclosure, if anything?
Thank you. I have been highly critical of the mortgage bailout. I was highly critical of the Federal Reserve's bailout of banks who made bad loans, and I'm critical of a taxpayer bailout of people that bought too much home. You've heard of these zero down, interest-only loans, where you don't actually get any equity in your home, you make a monthly payment, and you're not gaining any equity. There's a technical term for that. It's called renting. And when you stop paying your rent, you don't get to keep the house. Actions have consequences, and the worst thing that our government can do, I got this question with Dan Mitchell this morning on the radio. Well, this bailout is going to help people. How can you be against it? The worst thing the government can do is bail people out of bad decisions and create the next housing bubble. Just as the SNL bailout in the late 80s, early 90s fueled people to buy too much home in this housing bubble, knowing housing prices never go down, and if they do, Uncle Sam will pick up the tab. The worst thing we can do is bail them out now for bad decisions on a small portion of the overall real estate market, creating that uncertainty and creating the next housing bubble 5 or 10 years from now. And the last thing I'll say about this mortgage bailout, it was written by banks that have sweetheart deals with the senators who are passing it. It is a cesspool of corruption. It has to be stopped. It has to be voted down.
Bob Casper, you're up for the question, starting with Grant Bosse.
All right, thank you, Peter. I'd like to come back to something that Jennifer was mentioning, and that's taxes. Senator Obama and the Democrats seem to believe that tax increases are needed to balance the budget and to finance federal welfare programs, the so-called entitlements. And they've called for repealing the Bush tax cuts, raising the capital gains rate to up to 28%, raising the payroll tax cap so that we have to pay more in Social Security taxes. Do you agree with the Democrats and Senator Obama that we are somehow undertaxed? And if not, what will be your tax plan?
Grant, I hope you don't agree, or you're
No.
in trouble.
Would you like me to elaborate?
Yeah, we better.
We are not undertaxed. We don't have a tax problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We've seen it at the local level, the state level, the federal level. We have more than enough money. Revenues are at record levels. We are spending too much money. And the Republican Party, as a party, has to realize that we can't go around just talking about taxes anymore because voters don't believe us. If we then spend into oblivion and run up the deficit and tax the next generation, or as the Federal Reserve is doing, putting a tax on everything by inflating the dollar to try to get us out of that debt. Taxes are too high, and I am sick and tired of the class warfare that says soak the rich and pay their fair share. I am tired of punishing people in this country who have a couple of nickels to rub together as if they did something wrong. They've earned that money, and the best way to spread that prosperity across the United States and across the world is to let them keep it, invest it, because they are going to use that money a whole lot better than the United States government ever will. We need to keep down corporate tax rates. We should lower them even further. We should end the death tax forever, and we should lower rates across the board. Bob and I disagree. He is an eloquent spokesman for the fair tax. I think it's a bad idea, and he'll tell you why he thinks it's a good idea, I'm sure.
I don't know, Bobby. That's a lead-in. I don't. You want to take it up or?
You know, I'm a firm believer that we should stop tax.